For the first time, the individual will have the ability to keep money in their financial institution, being assured that they'll get a money market rate for those funds, and at the same time have immediate accessibility to the funds.
The controversy began last May when the school board fired 6 elementary school principals for allegedly falsifying expense reports. The case has been in and out of court for 8 months. It's cost the school system almost $300,000 in legal fees. Last night, the board reached an out-of-court settlement with all but one of the principals. Under the settlement, their firings were rescinded. Instead, they quit. The principals will also be paid through the end of the school year and have all information about the case removed from their personal files.
I think both sides believe it's a fair agreement. It is over with, except for the appeal of Mr. Ross. As I understand it, today is his last day to file his appeal. If he does so, then that will go to district court and possibly to the Supreme Court.
A very unfortunate lesson is being taught our kids down here, and that is that right and wrong is not what is important. That government of the people, by the people, and for the people doesn't exist in the Moore School District. It's a myth. I feel like our kids have learned that the guy with the most money will win.
Darby says the best thing that came out of the controversy was more active parents in the school system. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in Moore.
Star Wars is doing real good right now, and all the little action figures and things like this.
Is the biggest seller probably the video games, Atari and whatnot?
Yeah, we'll get a lot of that. Wanting to know where the Atari and where you can buy the little cartridges for Pac-Man and things like this.
We can't leave out little girls. What are they wanting this year?
Barbie dolls.
Palmer and Patsy Lockhart were accused of first-degree manslaughter in connection with the death of their 9-year-old son, Jason. Jason Dean Lockhart died from a ruptured appendix last summer. He had not seen a doctor. Palmer and Patsy Lockhart waited nervously for the jury's verdict. They knew if convicted of manslaughter, they could spend 4 years to life behind bars. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a not guilty verdict. The Lockharts had no comment on the jury's decision, but Enid Assistant District Attorney Kathy Stoker said she would appeal the verdict to the State Court of Criminal Appeals.
This is a case of what we call first impression in the state of Oklahoma in regard to this particular statute. So this will be the first time the Court of Criminal Appeals has ruled on exactly what that statute means and what its interpretation is.
The Lockharts cannot be retried on the manslaughter charge. However, the DA's question to the Court of Criminal Appeals should help decide whether Oklahoma's law allowing parents to rely upon spiritual means and prayer to help heal their sick children instead of medical treatment is constitutional. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Enid.
Lunch customers want their chicken fried steak and gravy without delay. Denise Baker works hard not to disappoint them. Denise knows the best way to a sizable tip is good service. The Internal Revenue Service knows the same thing. Waiters and waitresses better be careful accounting for their money. Next year, IRS computers are going to be programmed to spot check their tax returns. And the computers may have more information in 1983 than they've had in the past. Under proposed regulations, every restaurant would have to file detailed annual reports. Among other things, the reports would show tips reported to the employer by waiters and the names of employees to whom tip income was allocated. After that, it's simply a question of checking things out.
The IRS takes the information that they receive from the employer and matches it against the information on the tax return. And if there are discrepancies, then we contact the taxpayer.
The IRS isn't sure how much money they'll collect if the regulations are approved. But Debbie Baker isn't worried. She's just going to keep working hard, collecting her tips, and reporting everything to the government. Because it's not just Santa Claus who knows if you've been naughty or nice. Bill Ross, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
Please let me stress that the safe Please let me stress that the safest policy is not to drive after drinking. However, we all know there are times when people are going to do just that. That is the focus of Be Your Own Best Friend. We want an educated, informed Oklahoma public.
My baby was over 6 months then. They said that all the danger would be 6 months or under. And I think she was about 7 months then. And I felt that it was safe for us.
The Boston nutritionist says that cutbacks in food programs at a time when more people need assistance is foolish and short-sighted. He says it has resulted in a growing number of Americans who can no longer afford the minimal diet needs. But a dietitian at the Mercy Health Center says that with careful planning, a family of 4 can be properly fed for $230 a month, the amount such a family receives from food stamps.
Oklahomans seem to want to buy a lot of meat and meat products where you can get equal amounts of proteins if mixed. You can use vegetable proteins and mix them with small amounts of animal proteins. You might use things like dried beans and peas and lentils, peanut butters, rather than buying a steak or a piece of baked chicken or something like that.
While some programs will go on for feeding the hungry, they can't meet all the needs all the time. The answer to some of the problems may be education, both on nutrition and on budgeting. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4. Lunch programs for the elderly have been a long-standing tradition around the country. Senior citizens on fixed incomes can come to centers like this church for fellowship and hot lunch. But more and more, inadequate financing is not a problem felt only by the elderly. Churches and other charitable organizations say that because of the recession, requests for aid have more than doubled since last year. They give sacks of groceries to more and more families when they can and are providing more and more hot meals every day. But their capacity to help has not kept pace with the needs.
Food, clothing, housing, those are all tremendous needs, and I don't know volume-wise how we were able to handle it. I know that the need is there and the need continues to increase. It wasn't there, it didn't just appear at Christmas time, and it doesn't disappear after Christmas time. It's there every day of the year.
Families don't qualify for the daily meals, and most of them have to swallow their pride to even come to a center looking for help. Then they may go onto a waiting list for 6 months. Not a very good solution for immediate needs. No one likes it, but the economic problem is there, and even a rapid recovery won't help those in need right now. The only solution for that may be an attitude of Christmas giving 12 months out of the year instead of 1. Charles Schnetzer, Action 4.
Discussion started on some comprehensive approaches to the problem. And Senator Landis, who chaired the subcommittee in this area, has been increasing. Even with an increase in the incarceration rate, we can't continue to just throw money at a problem and not solve it. We can't continue to incarcerate every offender. We can only incarcerate those in the state system that are violent and threats to the society.
The color that the moon has, the moon would have no light at all, no color of any type, just black if there were not an atmosphere, because the light from the sun, the only thing that makes the moon shine, would be blocked off completely. But since we do have the atmosphere, some of the light from the sun can scatter through our atmosphere and then be bounced onto the moon and then of course back to us where we can see it. And for the same reason you have a red sunset, you get basically the red colors of light from the sun are all that can get through when it passes through long stretches of atmosphere, and that's what gives the color to the moon.
Still no substantial leads in this morning's Quail Springs bank robbery. It all started last night when 2 men held the bank vice president's family hostage until this morning when the 2 men ordered the bank safe open. The suspects managed to escape.
We're looking for a tan or beige over cream, late model, big model car. We believe it's an Oldsmobile and probably an Oldsmobile 98.
The 2 suspects are both said to be in their 40s, both about 6 feet tall, probably disguised in wigs and wearing suits. That obviously could have changed by now. There's been confusion so far in this case, confusion about the amount stolen.
Our first report, it was well over $1 million, but that was just an off-the-wall guess until the auditors got there and cleared it up.
The FBI is asking the public for any new leads. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
Verej Zazavar is manager of the Petroleum Club. His business is food and drink. We asked Verej to pick 6 wines that would make this New Year's a night to remember. He picked one California wine, Cabernet Sauvignon. It goes for about $15 a bottle. The rest of the wines are French. Chateau Margaux sells for $40. Then come 2 heavyweights in the world of wine, Chateau Latour and Chateau Lafite Rothschild. Be ready to spend more than $100 for each of these.
They're too close to say which one is the best. But since Chateau Lafite is well known, I guess everybody likes Chateau Lafite better.
And what would New Year's Eve be without champagne? Virej likes Louis Roeder for $80 and Paul Roger for $35.
Sometimes you pay up to 50% for a name, just the name. You pay sometimes more for a name than you pay for a wine.
If you take these suggestions and buy all 6 wines, the price tag will be about $420. And if you can afford that, then you'll certainly have a happy new year. Bill Ross, Action 4 at the Petroleum Club.
These babies are too young to realize it now, but they've made 1983 a new year to remember for their families. Because these tiny boys and girls were born today, on the very first day of the year. Their family and friends definitely rang out the old by bringing in the new.
All these babies are special because they were born today, but only one will get the honor of being called Oklahoma City's New Year baby.
Meet this year's New Year baby, Sylvester Cooper. He was born only 1 minute after midnight. The honor came as a surprise to his mother, Juanie. She wasn't expecting the arrival for 2 weeks. The early bundle of joy has caused quite a commotion in the family. Everyone is full of smiles and giggles about little Sylvester's timely appearance.
Happy, great, wonderful.
Does it mean anything special? All the excitement and attention felt here today on New Year's Day 1983 will definitely be remembered for holidays to come by the Cooper family. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 at Oklahoma Memorial Hospital.
I think the first factor would be the very healthy economy of this part of the country as compared to other parts of the country. I think another factor that would attribute it for the dramatic increases that we experienced in the first part of 1982 would be the business travel associated with the oil and gas industries. I think there's a third factor that we should consider, and that would be the commendable and aggressive efforts of the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce in promoting tourism and conventionism here in this part of the country.
I'm Bella Shaw. Now that the acute care unit has closed at St. Anthony's Hospital, there are really only 2 nursing home facilities where these patients can go. One is the Four Seasons Nursing Home in Norman, the other, the Four Seasons Nursing Center in Oklahoma City. These are the only places certified to handle acute care, and because of that, the Four Seasons Nursing Facility in Oklahoma City is full, all 64 beds. The patients are on a limited stay. They cannot stay here indefinitely. They must have a diagnosed problem, the most common being fractured hips, congestive heart failure, and strokes. Once they're admitted to the acute care facility, the average stay is 31 days. So even if the acute care beds are full, there will be openings in the future. At least Four Seasons gives the elderly who visited St. Anthony's an alternate place to go.
I think that their best choice probably right at this moment would be to contact Norman Facility and see what they have available with them. We will be happy to put them on a waiting list here and work them in as fast as possible.
The visiting nurse program is another alternative for the elderly, but many people need care around the clock. And if they don't want to stay in a nursing home, general care in a hospital would be the last resort. This would be costly, especially in light of Medicare cuts. So while the St. Anthony closing has not eliminated acute care, it has certainly limited the elderly's options. Bellishaw Action 4 at the Four Seasons Nursing Center.
Look at these beautiful $20 bills. Wouldn't you love to have a fistful of those? No, you probably wouldn't, because possession of counterfeit money can mean 5 years in the pen. That's right, the bills are bogus. They're part of the $1.2 million of counterfeit money the Secret Service confiscated in the Oklahoma City area last year. The agent in charge of the Oklahoma City office explained the key to first-rate counterfeiting.
A good craftsman. You know, your counterfeit notes anymore are not, as you might used to have imagined, someone taking a plate and actually engraving the thing. Everything now is photo engraving, and it's just as good, it can be just as good as the equipment that you purchase or the person that's operating the equipment.
One of the best craftsmen is this man, dubbed the Mall Passer. Since 1979, he's passed more than $100,000 of counterfeit money in shopping malls all over the country. But even the Mall Passer's work isn't perfect. He can't get the 100% cotton paper with blue and red fibers used by the Treasury Department.
We've been very close to him. He's been lucky, and we'll get him. It's just a matter of when.
Merchant urged local store owners to have their employees check the money they receive carefully. Funny money stops being funny when it becomes your money. Bill Ross, Action 4 at the Secret Service.
If we can't do it through the food stamp program and the state does not have the money to do it, then we're going to have to rely on more community resources. And, you know, Salvation Army and community chests and various things like this in the community to assist people that need help.
So welcome to the cabinet. Can't say welcome to the family. You've been part of it for so long. Thank you. And
Greenspan says that after meeting with it is willing to support some kind of payroll.
those people presently dependent on Social Security are going to get their checks, and their checks are not going to be reduced below what they're presently getting. I think those people have been scared enough by the demagoguery that they've heard for political purposes throughout this last election year and even before. And I want to reassure them, no plan is going to reduce their checks or take those checks away from them.
With cautious optimism, the State Transportation Department announced today that the nickel-a-gallon gasoline tax will mean more than $384 million in revenue for Oklahoma over the next 4 years. Although the ins and outs of the new tax regulation are still unclear to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, it appears the new funds could be put to use later this year.
The tax, insofar as we're able to learn, is effective April 1, 1983. However, we learn that the desire is to increase our apportionment and our obligation authority, so it would be sometime March or April before we actually let the contract.
The state will receive an 80% increase in highway funding this fiscal year. The new money means Oklahoma will have the fourth highest increase in highway expenditures in the nation. On the state level, the largest increases will go for interstate and primary highway and bridge building. Kurt Autry, Action 4.
It would be sometime March or April before we actually let the contract.
American car manufacturers have trumpeted their low interest rates all over the media, and they've been successful. In Oklahoma City, domestic car dealers sold 30% more cars in December than they did a year ago. The December rate of 10.9 and the current rate of 11.9 are well below the 15 to 16% being charged by import dealers. But at Northwest Datsun, customers are still looking at imports. There's a lot of interest in the 280Z, and they sold all 18 of the new Pulsars they received within 10 days. The owner of Northwest Datsun says his sales are still good because of the product he's selling.
I think people are looking at quality. They're not. They're looking at the overall program. I think we've rebated everybody out and all those type of things. And I think the buying public's much smarter than they used to be. And I think that they really are looking for quality and a total package rather than just an interest rate or a giveaway program.
Down the street at Toyota of Oklahoma City, there's an almost identical feeling. In the last quarter of 1982, sales were up 20%.
I say the economy has been pretty good here, so car sales in general are up, and we've just gone right along with it.
It's not just Datsun and Toyota. Other imports have done well too. And like dealers of American cars, foreign car dealers say a stronger economy and lower interest rates would increase their sales even more. Bill Ross, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
that.